Ain't nobody dope as me. I'm just so fresh and so clean, clean. Don't you think I'm so sexy? I'm just so fresh and clean. So fresh and so clean, clean. And we are the baddest motherfuckers on the planet. I know. Something, something, something. Erin's supposed to be joining me. Jim said he was going to join and then he didn't. So, but knowing Jim, we always have a contingency plan because we never know when he's going to show. Also, I just did an update on my computer and I'm like scared that it's going to crap out in the middle of this thing. So we shall see. We shall see what we can see. To being, to be or not to be. That is the question, whether it is nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of fate. Cheers. Erin. Um, I imagine she probably just went to the ladies' room, to the lavatory, to the loo. Um, but today we are um gonna talk about implementation and business, but the business of family. So, regardless of whether or not you have a family business, if you have a family, you are in business. And hopefully that'll make more sense by the end of this conversation. Um, Even if that conversation ends up being a monologue. Um, oh, another country heard from, although you're on mute. So another country has been spotted.
Hello.
There you are.
I had to redo my whole Zoom app and go to the bathroom. My computer did like an auto install thing.
Hmm.
It threw off my whole vibe.
Well, my computer also did an update, and I don't know if it's going to try and restart on me again.
Ugh, terrible.
So let's hope it doesn't restart in the next hour or so.
That would be great.
Yeah. So what I was basically saying before you arrived into the the situation space was that if you have a family, even if you don't have a family business, if you have a family, you are in business,
Oh, so true.
right?
Hmm.
Because your family is an organization, and all organizations um, have certain functions that they have to perform, regardless of what their intended or stated purpose is.
Accurate.
Um, so, do we want to jump in, or do we want to like do it? Because I also wanted to. We saw that movie yesterday, and I wanted to talk about it.
Let's start there. Let's talk about that. That was really
Great.
fun.
Okay, so do you know like who coined the term dad TV? It might have actually been Greg Owen. Um,
I don't know because I got it from you.
okay. Well, dad TV is basically what qualified as good movies before, and now
Right?
everything else is trash. So dad TV is basically everything that's still good and true and right with the world of television and cinema. And
That movie has like action and real stories and like actual romance and all kinds of good things.
yeah. So, from a marketing perspective, what I always say is that you've got the four-quadrant film, which is males and females over and under 25. So, the four-quadrant film actually targets the male over 25 because the male over 25 is likely to go solo. They will go with a date and they will go with a family. So that's the highest income producing quadrant historically. However, in recent term or in recent times, the move has been to from the family as the primary source of revenue to the dinkwad, dual income, no kids with a dog. So the dinkwad population is generally run by the female over 25.
Mhm.
So the shift in a lot of cinema feels really strange, but if you just look at who they're targeting, right? I can't watch an ad anymore and not, be like, oh, who's the target customer for this?
Right?
Then how fast did they get to their hook? There's this, oh God, I'm gonna repeat this thing and I hate it. I hate that I know it, but it keeps showing up, which suggests that they think I'm their target audience, even though I'm so not their target audience. And I want to like stick a pencil in my ears every time I hear this. And this guy goes, "Hello, my name is Adam Ferrari, and we would like you to join us at this free seminar." And I'm like, well, he's told us who he is and he's given us the call to action. And then the video just like the ad just keeps going. And I'm like, bro, stop. Like, stop it. I wasn't interested in the first 5 seconds. And you just keep going. And
Seminar for what?
he's trying to get you into an investing seminar. I don't know if it's like real estate or something else, but um, I remember this guy's name and nothing else about his product. That's not awesome, right?
Mm-mm.
If his objective was name recognition, okay, satisfactory. But if his objective was for me to join the seminar, yo, you lost me, homie. I'm out. I'm
Right?
so, anyway, just shifting the focus to your target market is why there's so much frustration. And I had this, sort of, oh, I'm getting old. The market is
Oh,
no longer interested in me. They're not marketing to me. They're marketing to the younger generations.
oh,
And one of the things that I've been sort of hypothesizing is that the younger generation has lost all sense of metaphor and they do everything literally now. I wonder if this is in part because there's an increase in autism spectrum just in recent decades. And we can speculate on what that has to do with. There's some dietary conditions. There's having children older in life. So there's a variety of factors that increase likelihood of spectrum, but also I think that it's the environment that we're exposed to. Kids have more interaction with screens, and they see people on screens, and screens tend to have like a finite number of responses, right? So you play a video game and you go through the tutorial, you've only got like, A, B, X, Y, you've got your little bumpers, your triggers, right? So there's a finite number of inputs that you make. And the combinations of those inputs create the outputs that you see on your video game screen. Well, human beings don't just have like a finite number of inputs and a finite number of outputs. We have an infinite number of both happening simultaneously. And what I think is actually this unintended consequence of the increase in technology is that people are getting worse at reading faces and understanding metaphor and subtext.
Yep.
Yeah. And so as a result, what feels like um, movies beating you over the head with the point, right? And the problem was racism.
Oh my God.
And the problem was this guy has insecurities. And the
Right.
problem was nobody believed in her. Like, it's like, okay, thanks for the
Got it.
message, yo. I got it. I
Got
got
it.
it.
Loud and clear.
Wow, can you like just layer it in there somewhere
Can
instead
you
of
tone it,
just
could you tone it down a little bit?
right? You know, it's like if it's too on the nose, then you get pulled out of the fictive dream. But then this is another thing I think about the younger generation's viewing habits is that they're not even in the fictive dream with you at all. So your audience has become less discerning because they're mostly just listening. What is it? Ambient television was, I think, a term that I heard on
Oh yeah,
film.
where you just like have a show on in the background for noise so you don't like feel alone or something.
Yeah, and we have friends that'll like literally with friends, they'll just put on Friends or an Frasier, and then it'll just be like happening in the background while they do something else. Um, and what your sister does that, you
I
know,
used to do that sometimes in college because I couldn't listen to music and do homework at the same time because I would get so absorbed in the music. But if I
mhm.
put on like, but I used to like to listen to like PBS in the background or like David Attenborough or like NPR. But that ambient noise filling the room, I did a little of that.
I don't think that that's necessarily the case. It's that people are now using like like so what you're talking is like maybe a podcast in the background or you're doing something that's like low level stimulation, but movies now. And so if a movie or a TV show is ambient, then you're not actually watching it.
So are you saying that instead of me just like putting something on that I don't have to engage very seriously with, they're making movies specifically so you don't have to pay attention to them?
Exactly.
Oh, see, that's gross.
Yeah. And so if you like don't want to have to pay attention to it, then we're just going to make it so we just tell you the thing, right? So one, the audience is more literal, and two, the audience is more distractible. And so we're just going to pepper you with the point throughout. So if you're like, wait, what was happening again? Oh, yeah. Okay. They explicitly stated this bullshit so that I can see it because they're not expecting you to pay full attention. And so if you're
Hmm,
not paying full attention, then they have to tell you things to remind you.
very obviously.
And so for someone who is paying full attention to this show or movie, it's like, why do you keep saying it like that? Why are you
Right?
doing that? Stop it.
Right? I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah. Um, which brings us to a piece of television or a movie that we watched yesterday that was actually new, but also great.
It was really funny. It was really funny.
It was Playdate with my
Kevin James,
homie Alan Richson
Alan Richardson,
and who's the other guy who's always in funny movies?
Kevin James.
Kevin James, thank you.
Mhm.
Um, I just remember him mostly from Hitch.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
and
Oh
he's
yeah.
like dancing and the girl he's trying to get like thinks he's this great dancer because she's terrible at dancing, but
Uh-huh.
young Hitch is like, don't dance like that. You know,
She's
I,
secretly into it.
yeah, yeah.
I loved that
Um,
movie.
so I mean, I really like him as an actor, and Alan Ritchson and Henry Cavill. I feel like both of those guys I would be homies with
I
because
know. I want to have them over for like barbecue.
yeah, because like we're all big and but the funny thing is about that is that they're big guys and like they look big, but neither they're not like real fighters. Like they're actors. And Henry Cavill, he was a sports guy, but he's a nerd. He's a
Oh yeah, I love that about him.
yeah, yeah. I'm
I
a nerd also,
right?
but I
I
know my
do.
way around a street fight.
Me too. I don't know about street fighting, but I do get the impression that Alan Richson has done some level of actual fight training.
I don't get that impression.
Really?
Really, yeah. He was on like a muscle and fitness thing, and he seems very broy. Which again, my fraternity guys, I got plenty of broy bros. But
We're into it.
yeah, I don't think either of these guys is like particularly like the tough guy archetype. They
Hmm.
both seem very friendly. Um,
They do. They
which
totally do.
also is great. And so I'm not knocking any of these things. I'm actually saying, wow, these guys would probably be really, really cool to hang
Right?
out with.
Like you think so? So nice.
But I feel like I would have to like play nice with them. Like
Hmm.
me and Jem, we just kind of show up and start fighting. And I feel like these guys would be a little bit freaked out by that behavior.
Probably.
But I have not laughed that hard at a movie
And
in a
forever.
while.
That was so great. I also laughed really hard and I enjoyed it, but it was like double enjoyment for me because I was enjoying how much you were enjoying it. You were laughing so hard. It was so great.
I think you laughed extra because of how hard I was
I
laughing. Yeah.
totally did. It was a total delight. It was really funny. And ironically, like I feel like a majority of our major laughs came in like the first half of the movie.
hmm
It was so funny, but the whole thing was wild. It was a it was a wild ride. It was ridiculous, but I loved it. I was
There was I had no problems because I mean, we knew it was a comedy.
Yeah.
They made it very, very obvious that we were in for a comedy from the beginning.
Uh-huh.
And when when Alan Richson's character shows up, it was just like, because I was like, "Ah," I started to get frustrated in the first like 10 minutes because we were introduced to like our main character, our Kevin James character, and I was just like, okay, he's a little, and they're a little
I
okay.
know. I could sense you starting to bristle a little bit. Um, but then we had a couple of laughs and we stuck it out and it was great.
Yeah, when they brought him in and the
Oh my God.
craziness happened,
That
it was
whole
great.
scene in the park where we meet him and his kid for the first time, and they're like punching each other. He's like tackles the kid to the ground. He like puts him in a choke, and he's like, "Submit, submit." I was dying. Oh my God,
And
it's
I was like,
you.
wow,
It's
that
so
is
you.
actually me.
Oh, it was so funny.
Feral ass children.
Oh my God, I laughed so hard. It was great.
Yeah, we had a
Great.
couple of moments where it was like, oh my God, it's you. And it's
Mm-hmm.
you as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When
Um,
the two kids were on their own for a minute and they ran into the like lacrosse punks outside the candy store
uh-huh.
and Richson's kid, CJ, like whooped their ass. I was like, oh my God, was that you as a
That
child?
was totally me as a kid. Is that we would okay, so this was literally what happened is we were in
Ah,
this is elementary school. We were in elementary school and there were these kids and they would pick on my brother and his friends and I had a different I had a different lunch than he did or something. But one day we both had the same lunch and I met the kids that were picking on him and I just beat the shit out of all of them.
And this is your older brother, which is extra funny because you were like the younger brother and you were like, I'm going to take care of this for you.
Yeah, well, and then he would get me out of trouble. He would go and he would talk to the teacher and he'd be like, "Oh, please don't. My brother, he didn't mean to. He was just trying to help me." And like, you know what I mean? So we had a system is
Totally.
yeah.
That's
And he's
adorable.
I'm the big one in the family. So like, you know,
You're the tallest. You're the
I'm
brawniest.
the thick boy. So,
It's a total delay.
yeah. But that was totally me as, you know. So we had a fun time with that movie.
Really did.
Had
And
some
that
good
was
nostalgia moments.
some high quality dad TV.
Yeah. Great dad TV. I highly recommend. Um,
It was really fun. What's great is that we actually watched two movies this weekend, and one was like an art piece, and then we watched that ridiculous comedy, and
uh,
they're both really great. And I was like, did we just watch two new good movies
yeah.
to back?
Yeah.
What is happening? And it was really cool.
What's happening is they realize that they made a grave error in switching the target market because the ambient TV crowd doesn't make sales. Yes, do they have the money to go to these things? Sure, but they don't want to. Like they're not the big spenders.
Mhm.
And what they realized is, oh shit, we tried to go after this new market because we thought that there was, you know, good financial potential, but there was a complete mismatch between the product and the market. And so they're not interested in these, you know, dinkwads aren't as interested in superhero stuff. They're not as interested in like things exploding. Um, Girls in general don't have the same kind of profile for the same type of entertainment. There's a graph that's actually really interesting that shows, you know, the genre of story or movie that people are interested in based on gender, and there's a couple of things that are both, but
Mhm.
you know the girls tend to pull away in terms of like the romance, and then the boys tend to pull away in terms of the sci-fi. But there's more, or actually no, boys are more military history or military stuff, but like sci-fi, fantasy, even historical fiction tends to be pretty good for both populations. So, you know, what you have then is, and also for books, girls tend to be, ironically, I say ironically, but girls tend to read more fantasy and boys tend to read more sci-fi. That I think is because there's like more, you know, interplay between male and female in the fantasy genre than in the sci-fi genre.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
mean, that makes a lot of sense. Is like, why are you going to read something that doesn't have anybody, you know, that you
Right.
really feel like?
Right.
And I think that's the other problem is that markets overestimated the population of tomboys. There's not
Ah.
that many, you know? Um, yeah. So, no, I think just like markets, right? There's a correction going on. Plus, it's been like 10 years, and I think a big chunk of the population has aged out of whatever it is that they were trying to push at them.
Mhm.
So, I don't know. And again, there's a long lead cycle for film. We totally now have just spent half of the podcast talking about movies, but this is all to say, you know, there's a lot of big market factors that influence things that we interact with, and that's what I actually was trying to start my newsletter on was when you see something on the news what does that actually mean for you? And I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, I got to stay informed. And then they just watch the news. But news is like a TV show. And
Mhm.
so it's like they're trying to get ratings, they're trying to get views. And what they've learned is, you're going to hook your audience if you have a really inflammatory headline. So,
Yeah,
and the sucky thing is, it's a race to the bottom to see who can do the most inflammatory headline. And so, even if you've got the highest quality piece of content, nobody's gonna notice it because you're like, well, I didn't like tell you that the world was ending in 35 seconds. And because I didn't tell you the world is ending, you just kind of scrolled past.
right. That
Yeah.
makes me really sad.
Yeah. That I do think is very unfortunate, which is why,
Mhm.
main topic of conversation, um, we are going to talk about family as a business. Because that's the whole thing, right? Is that we're doing household management consulting
Mhm.
with your MBA. Um, but really, when I think of a business, right? And I've been doing this. Oh God, man, this is what I've been trying to do for my company for the last week because new management, a lot of changes, different products. I'm trying to put together good metrics for things. I don't fully understand all of our suite of products, mostly because we just had a merger and I don't know like what the other guys were bringing to the table. And so I'm still trying to figure out some of their stuff. Um, but I said, okay, same industry. They're mostly doing a lot of similar things. How do I now take the big picture situational analysis, looking at the market and the industry, then where the company fits in, then zoom in to all of our product offerings, then zoom into all of our metrics and features, and then prioritize what gets put onto the roadmap so that you can have a clear line from what's our big picture corporate strategy all the way down to what do we build, right? Um, so this has also got me thinking in terms of, how are we organizing our products? How are we making a product that somebody, can use, will benefit them in a substantial way?
Mhm.
And your house is a business in that it still has the same functional elements, right? Finance, operations, network, and defense.
Mhm.
But I look at a business model canvas, which has a bunch of different sections, but it really breaks into three chunks, which is your your suppliers on the business model canvas, customers, and then your return on investment. Or on the lean product canvas, you've got problem solution metrics, and then you've got your value proposition customers and your channels. How are we going to get our product to the customer in terms of like distribution, but also in terms of marketing? How are we going to let our customer know? And then the bottom layer is still your costs and revenues. So doesn't matter if you're running a business or if you're running a household, you still got that cost and revenue component. Um, your customers, this is an interesting one. How do you look at customers for a household? But you can definitely look at problem solutions and metrics that are operating in your household.
Mhm.
So, really, in so many ways, a house or a family is a fraternity slash guild. So where is the revenue? The revenue is your job incomes, right? As the parents. Your cost structure are just going to be your living expenses. You still have your operating and capital expenditures. But then the problems and solutions are what you're trying to solve for your students, your apprentices.
Hmm.
And so In a fraternity, you do socials, philanthropies, brotherhoods, like all of these activities. My fraternity, we went and we did a lot of community service. We would do a fundraiser, and then we would go and donate to charity. And so, we would do a lot of these things for the local community, which both like allowed us a bonding experience with each other. It
Yep.
gave us good PR for the community because there's a lot of negativity about, oh, everybody in fraternities is just an alcoholic. I don't drink. Um, and then, it also does a good thing. It's like all kinds, all the win, right? Good for you,
Yeah.
good for me, now and later. And then
Right.
we would go and do socials. We'd have fun things. We do our recruitments. In a family, there's a lot of that going on, right? You still want to do the socials, right? Oh, let's go to Disneyland, or let's go to, the park, or let's go to
Yeah.
McDonald's, whatever.
Yeah.
The parents, let's go on a date, right? Please, let's, get away from the kids for an evening.
Right.
And then you have the apprenticeship aspect, right? Like a guild. What are we training you to do, right? What are our core values? What are the skills that we are helping you to develop, whether they are technical or soft skills,
Hmm.
right? So in this regard, your salary ends up being kind of like dues that are paid, but the apprentices have no money, no cost up front, but they essentially are obligated to give back after their matriculation or after their time at the
Hmm.
guild. So it's almost like you have a plumber who matriculates through their trade guild, and then once they go out on jobs, they return a percentage of their fee,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
But in this case, instead of returning a monetary portion of capital, their capital is, check in with your parents, right? Like maybe you should talk to your mom,
Right.
know?
Yeah.
And when they're getting older, go help out. Make sure that you spend some time and let them see their grandbabies, like
Right.
the whole the whole situation is you're giving back, but a lot of the capital that you're giving back to your parents or to the guild, to the family, is social capital. It's emotional capital.
Hmm.
And if you have it available, right, then you have financial capital. But I think a lot of families are really reluctant to talk about money, talk about finances, um, to teach their kids that stuff. Maybe
Hmm.
because they're insecure, they don't want anybody to know what they have, what they don't have.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't necessarily want our kids to, because kids loose lips sink ships, man. I don't want my
Right.
kid to go and talk about how much money I make
I know.
to the
Like
neighbors. That's a little uncomfortable.
that's private.
But at the same time, we want them to know how money works, you know? So
Right.
what I mean, I can ask them right now, what are assets and liabilities, and they know.
Yep. Yep.
They can walk you through the components of an income statement and balance sheet.
Do you
Make sure we got those
remember?
priorities.
Do you remember when our oldest like had this moment in class where they were like he didn't know about some shopping thing or some pop culture reference or whatever, and I was like, "Yeah, but you know what an income statement and balance sheet is, and how many other kids in your class know that?" And he was like, "None." And I was like, "Bing, bing, bing."
Yeah.
They're talking about shopping, but they don't know how to manage their money to go shopping in the first place.
Right. So they know how to spend money, but they don't know how to work and they don't know how to invest.
Yeah.
Yikes. So that's the major difference is we are teaching them all of the functional elements that they'll need to be good hunters. To be good businessmen, to be you know, men of good character, and um, that's an apprenticeship. You know,
Hmm.
school's not teaching a bunch of this shit.
Hmm.
I'm gonna have to publish that rant I did on education at some
Yep.
point, but this is why we are trying to improve people's administration. So, Mojo in the household Mojo is actually not just some spooky woo woo nonsense. For me, it's an acronym, or it's not. Mojo is not the acronym, but Mojo is another it's a word for me that encapsulates the three fundamental things that you need for any institution or organization or relationship, right? I'm looking at fundamentals, right? So fond is within one of these components. So the ownership, romance, and administration. Those are the three things that make up what Mojo is. So
Hmm.
Mojo is ownership, romance, administration. In the administration component, that's what FOND is: financial, operational, network, and defense. So the reason that I'm focusing on the admin component first is because Americans suck at it
On the general. Yeah.
as a general rule.
Yep.
Um, and so we love romance.
Oh,
Love is in the air. Or I just want, what is it, Brave? Okay, there we're gonna do the role play. I want to be free and let my hair flow in the wind as I ride my horse. Like
I love that moment in the movie. That's so great.
right? And it's like, oh, we what do you tell your kid? Oh, go follow your passion, or just like do what you love, and like do it, and we want you to be happy. And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah.
We
What did I
want you
say?
to
What did I
be,
say? I don't think kids should be happy.
you did
Remember
say
that?
that. Hmm.
Yeah.
You, that was so funny. I think we were in the car and you paused and you were like, hmm. And then you like decided, you were like, yeah, no, I don't think kids should be happy.
Yeah. So here's my reason for that statement. I'm not just like an evil psychopath. The reason is palates. So if you eat a bunch of sweets, then eating carrots and broccoli becomes bitter.
Hmm.
But if you don't eat a lot of sweets, carrots are sweet and broccoli is just normal.
Hmm.
So the idea is, if we don't make everything about excitement and the kids are used to basicness, then
Yeah.
that basicness, shit, they're excited when we go to the Cheesecake Factory. They're
Are you
excited.
kidding me?
Yo,
Yeah.
we had a burger. We were on a road trip and we went to Burger King, and he was like, "Oh my God, this is crazy."
We went
Meanwhile,
on
normal
some
kids
fast
are like,
food.
"What?
Right?
I don't want to eat a vegetable." Meanwhile, our kids, that's the baseline.
I know.
Everything else is extra.
Our youngest told me once that he thought the nicest restaurant he'd ever been to was Subway sandwiches.
Yeah. Yeah. I want these kids to think they poor. So, so if for whatever reason they're not financially successful, they're not surprised.
They're like, this is fine.
Because like we had the moment, right, where you
Uh,
you have the ramen diet, you
oh,
that
yeah.
I was just like buying big cases of rice and like eggs and tuna.
Eggs. I was a loaf of bread and a jar of peanut butter kind of person. Eggs
Yeah.
and ground beef were my splurges.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, if I could buy fresh fruit.
Hmm.
What?
Yeah. No, that was like I was
That
buying
one
everything in
can.
bulk, you
Yeah.
know, maximizing that unit price
Right?
situation. I'm
Oh, yeah.
I'm that guy who's reading the unit price and then calculating it, to see which one is actually going to be cheaper,
Yep.
you know?
Yep.
Yep.
Big fan.
So, you know, that's the idea, right? Is that we're apprenticing them so that they can be, functional contributing citizens. And the romance aspect of the culture that they are surrounded by, they're going to be fucking weirdos. But here's the rub, what's that meme I made? Genius, the other minority group,
Oh my
you know?
God. Yeah.
Because anything that is difficult has a high barrier to entry, right?
Yep.
The harder it is to get into the upper echelon, right? The higher barrier to entry, the fewer people go there.
Yeah.
So that's why honestly, that's why there aren't a lot of rich people. Ironically, though, there are more rich people now than ever. So the crazy thing is, there's more people now, and the
Mhm.
percentage of people that is capable, that is not in poverty, is astronomically better now than it was any other time previously. So it
Yeah.
is technically easier to get your basic needs met, and it's easier to get rich than it ever has been. And yet, people bitch
All the time.
because they have no sense of, you know, time horizon, right? They haven't collected enough time series data.
Yeah.
And the other component is the structures that we have built, especially in the United States, are fucking fantastic
Oh
by
my God.
comparison to pretty much everywhere else.
100%.
And so we have been, in our generation and younger, coasting on the structural elements that previous generations have built for us. We have the luxury of enjoying all of these benefits, enjoying our McDonald's, right?
Right?
Because somebody else built a structure that McDonald's could thrive in.
Yes.
So my focus on the admin component is not in neglect of romance. It's to ensure we can continue to perpetuate the romance.
Yeah, it's like in service of having romance in our lives because we have our shit organized.
That's right. And so, oh my God, I'm about to get into the little bit of datingness, but what we were basically talking about was how women have a security gland. That was
Mhm.
a Dave Ramsey quote. He's like, women have a security gland, and he says it with the accent. Um, and what actually that comes down to is, I doubt most women would be able to say this or would admit it, but what they're actually looking for is a certain level of redundancy. So,
Explain this to me. Yeah,
yeah, and you agreed.
I
So I
did.
have an actual human female who agrees with my assessment of,
I probably did not know that that's what I was looking for consciously, but when you explained it, I was like, oh, that makes sense.
yeah. And so the idea is, um, first off, we have an economic issue. And so the economic issue is you've only got one womb at a time, right? And so if you are going to be impaired for a percentage of that gestation period,
Mhm.
then you need to have someone who can cover at least a portion of your responsibilities. And
Yeah,
the more of those responsibilities can be covered, the better. So, do you want someone who is weaker than you? Well, if a person is weaker than you, then generally speaking, they're not going to be able to do, and I say weaker in terms of like competency for job tasks, right? So let's say right now you as an individual person are handling 100% of your current capacity. Now let's say your capacity drops to 80%. Well, now you need somebody who can compensate for that additional or for that 20% capacity drop that you had just to make that break even point. Now,
yeah,
if you have somebody who can augment, right, you have a 20% decline, and that 20% capacity is in surplus from the other party. Oh man, this is great. Now I don't have to worry about it. And if they can accommodate even more right? So let's say you've dropped 20% in capacity, but they can compensate for 50%. Now
I
you can
mean,
chill. Woo.
that's even more ideal because then them compensating your 20% means that you as a unit still aren't redlining.
Right.
You've still got surplus left over.
And so the irony is, I don't know if this is irony, but economically speaking, it's just a capacity management function.
Hmm.
And so the greater level of surplus from your male counterpart means that you can relax more in the childbirth process. Yeah,
Sounds pretty good.
yeah. And so, back in the day, that just meant who can fight the hardest and who has the most powerful friend network, right?
Hmm.
And so generally that's the warlord. Yeah. So what we're looking at now is okay, well, if the state or if the institutions, the companies, the corporate have all handled the administrative component, then that leaves us more freedom for romance. Awesome. However, if you lean too heavily into the romance, you tend to neglect ownership. Ooh, which is leadership, responsibility, the maturity ladder, those kinds
Hmm.
of things.
Hmm.
And well, you start to take for granted all of that administration.
Hmm.
So in a relationship, what we're going to look at is the command module. So I made the font pack. It is now available for sale. You can see it on the Mojo bag, on the Household Mojo site, but also it's on Gumroad. I think I'm going to start linking it in my articles, so you can get access to it. But I
And
wanted
the
to
link is live on your Substack.
link is live on Substack. I have not promoted just because maybe we'll talk about that later. But maybe there'll be some promotions. Maybe they won't be. Whatever. If you want it,
Available.
it's available for you. And if you subscribe, um, you get 20% off instantly. And if you're an annual sub, um, ping me and you can get the font and I'll give you a code and you can get the font pack for free.
Yay.
So yeah. So here's what it is. It's actually five components, even though there's only four in the font. And so Fast Money Planner, this is basically how to build it's not how to, it is a calculator that you basically just like go and look at your bank statements and then you plug and chug and then it'll build you a financial statement. So you'll have your income statement and balance sheet for a full year. We use this at our monthly household review meetings. And then there's a tab that is a subscription tracker. So you can list all of your subscriptions, where it's coming from, and what you're essentially going to pay in subscription fees every month for the next 12 months. I built this for me because well, I built the subscription tracker for me because I was like, okay, I got too many and I gotta cut some of this shit out. And then I was like, cool, I bet somebody else could use that. The financial statements I actually made for Erin because we were having our financial planning meetings and I'm like, where's your stuff? And she's like, I don't know. And I was like, why is it taking so long every time we have a meeting? And so I just built a little spreadsheet so that Erin could track this without a ton of hassle. You can get an app, and they'll tell you this kind of stuff. But the problem I have with apps is one, that you don't own it. So now, if you have all of your data, you've connected all this stuff, you now have to go to the app. You're beholden to it instead of having a document that you can essentially just print. And now you have your financial statements that you can, you know, keep records. I'm a nerd. My brother's an accountant. We do records for everything.
Love some record giving.
Yeah. So, this way, And I've had friends ask me like, what apps do you use, or you got to use something. I was like, nah, I just use Excel. And so I just made one. So that's that. Operations, there's basically how to keep your house maintained. And there's like an inventory manager in there. The network component that is, I call it the root network. It's basically a CRM. Again, all of this stuff is Excel and Word. So like they're just documents and spreadsheets. But you
It's
can,
all organized so accessibly for you, and there's no guesswork about like how to do formulas or what to put where. Everything is entered and organized, and you just have to add your information to it, and then you've got everything where you need it in a
yeah.
really like clean, easy to read way. It's customizable to your situation. It's really great.
Yeah, and I put in a bunch of things, so like we've got like a quick clean, right? The idea is make your house guest ready in 30 minutes. You've got a like regular, fix up the house thing, and then like a deep clean. We've got a let it go guide, that's like a flow chart that I built. I actually made this flow chart to help clean up the boys' room because Erin likes to keep child things. Yes.
I suffer from sentimentality.
You have none.
I do. I have this affliction. It's an ongoing battle. I'm working on it.
No, you're good. And I had to realize that there is an emotional component to letting things go, and you can grieve for things because you've imbued them with memory. You've imbued them with the magic of experience. So, um,
And you've
I,
given them meaning. And I am aware in my logic brain that it is just a thing. And the only irreplaceable element of our family is the people. So in my logic brain, I'm aware that all items can be let go of. But in my emotional brain, my lizard brain, I'm like, oh, but that special meaning that this item now symbolizes. And you're like, take a photo. And I'm like, yes, but the thing, and I can hold it and feel it, and it's not. So yeah, I'm working on it.
and we're also trying to find some in between here. I don't use the word compromise. I actually would say that I am very uncompromising. Would
Yes,
you agree with this?
yes.
Yeah. So, I like to win-win. I don't, because to me, a compromise is lose, win, win, lose. So, like, everybody loses a little and everybody wins a little. I don't like this. I like win-wins. So, how do we get you a win so you can, say goodbye to the things that you need to and let them go, but also keep a memento that is valuable. Yeah. So then, speaking of things to keep, the red file is the final component of that. That's the defense element. And the defensive element is really just here's a checklist of all of the critical documents that you should probably have somewhere. And, do you have a physical, digital backup? What are the physical, digital, and administrative controls that you're, putting on your most important things? Are they locked, hidden, insured? This is also something that comes with the inventory, so you can use the RTH, run the house manager, when you inventory your items, but also know what your property values are. So, if you do have that fire, then you can be like, hey, insurance company, this is how much all of my shit was worth. And you don't have to try and like remember that stuff, after the fact.
And, doing this, we tell the kids all the time, it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
Hmm.
And, going through and valuing what you own and inventorying it and updating your insurance policies now before there's a problem is, a great thing to do. And it's one of those things that gets backburnered, but it's really It's really satisfying, really valuable.
Yeah. And none of this becomes possible without the first thing on there, which is essentially the number one, is the command module. The command module is basically what we want y'all to do, which is have meetings. Um, I have been trying to get partners to have meetings with me for over a decade. And,
Your
and
entire dating career.
my entire dating, well, my dating career has been longer than a decade, but um, it's been a while.
Hmm.
And what I found is one of the gals, her attention span was just, all over the place. She had the attention span of a horsefly. And then another gal, she just wouldn't do it. She's just like, I am a Latina. No, I will not. I will not have a meeting with you. I will just yell at you. No thanks. Pass. Hard pass. Whew. That was a lot. She's like, I'm fiery because, and I was like, I am a dragon. And
I
yet,
know about some fire.
and yet, you have not been burned, young lady.
Uh-huh.
So, and then, I had an MBA, I was dating a gal who was in the MBA program with me, and she was great at meetings. Only, but she couldn't implement anything.
So she was good at having the meeting, but not doing anything that you came up with in the meeting.
Correct. The execution was atrocious. And so, as frustrating as it was to have this great meeting and to like get everything out on the table and then not be able to do anything, that was super annoying. Um, and so, Erin, you are the best meeting haver and implementer ever.
Thank you.
But it shouldn't surprise you. Like, why is this such a hard concept? Because what? Every single team, right? And I'm a team guy.
Hmm.
Orchestra, sectionals, right?
Yep.
Um, Football, you got the coaches meeting, you got the captains meeting, you got the meetings by position meetings, right?
Hmm.
Consulting, you have your team meetings, you have your check-ins, your kickoffs, right? Um, and like everybody has some sort of a meeting. Why is it that when you are a couple who is trying to raise a human person, we decided, we're just not going to do meetings?
Well, we think we figured out several reasons why people don't want to do it. Um, Number one, they don't want their home or their relationship to feel like work. We talked about how Westerners love romance. Number two, because they're successful at work, or successfully running their own independent life before they became part of a team with a partner, they're like, we already know how to do this. We don't need to structure it. We're two successful functioning adults. And number three, it feels, I mean, habit change is difficult. Habit
Yeah.
change is difficult. As reasonable as it and simple and straightforward as it sounds to like have a meeting with your spouse, it does not feel very romantic. And you don't want to feel like an employee to your partner. You want to feel like you're a team. But I have found, despite all those reasons that are perfectly reasonable feelings to feel and why people might be resistant, when you suggested this to me, I was like, okay, let's try it. That sounds super reasonable. And what I have found is that securing the administration of our partnership has has added a layer of like calm reassurance to the proceedings because I
Mm.
know where to look for things. I know when we're going to have time to talk. I know how we lay things out, how we plan for things. There's not really any conflict in the execution of things, except when we both get underwater with other stuff and the execution systems that we have set up for ourselves don't get done.
Yeah.
Do you know what I
So,
mean?
so what it is that you're referring to is that capacity.
Yeah.
And so what we've done is we've outsourced a, our capacity to the system.
Hmm.
And I always think about the four forces, right? Push, pull, habit, and anxiety. Push is how uncomfortable you are with the present state. Pull is your desire for the new state. Um, your habit is how much momentum, how long you've been doing that habit for, because it gets harder and harder to break the more you've done it.
Mhm.
And anxiety, which is your FUD, your fear, uncertainty, doubt, and the difficulty of the new behavior. So, all of these forces are at play here. And you mentioned, right, like, oh, well, I've got a habit of doing this sort of thing myself, right? So now
Mhm.
you've got the habit of solo, but now you've got to move from independent to interdependent with your partner. You've got anxiety. Oh, I don't want them to see my financials. I
I
don't
don't
want
want to
them
be
to know.
scrutinized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that fear of judgment, that uncertainty of how they're going to take it. Um, excuse me. Homath talks about this thing too, where the girl just doesn't tell you anything, and then suddenly she like feels comfortable, and then she tells you about all the hoish things that she did in her past life, and you're like, what?
A
And
lot of information to get in 5 minutes.
well, but at the same time, he's like, shit, if I had known that stuff, I might not have been in this thing at all. Right. And she knew it and she didn't tell you. Ooh, ooh,
Ab-
that's not good.
Yeah.
To a guy, that's the same thing as like, um, you know, if a guy if a guy is hooking up with a side chick and just didn't tell you, like that's terrible.
Hmm.
But for a guy, when a girl doesn't disclose information, he's feeling the exact same thing.
Hmm.
Not cool
Yeah.
on either side, right? So I like I like going into shit. This is what comes of being a finance professional is that you give somebody a prospectus. And so I'm like, here is my prospectus.
And it's not just like personal details and finance, all those things. And that's the thing. There's lots of uncomfortable things that we as a society have, different family structures and different cultural traditions that make the discussion of some of those things feel scary or difficult.
Hmm.
And there is definitely a layer of learning. I remember when we first started this practice, I was like, oh, I don't have an MBA. I don't know how to run a meeting the same way you do. I don't know how to use the computer. I don't know how to prepare for this meeting. I was not good at the documentation. And it felt stressful just to like learn a new skill at the same time. But again, I do also remember the shift of like, oh, I started showing up to meetings prepared and
Hmm.
I got in a cadence and I got in a rhythm. And then I felt excited to come to the meetings because I was like, look, I have done the thing. It is filled out. I'm prepared. I have my discussion topics. I saved them for the meeting time as I am supposed to do. And I chose the appropriate, like, so it really has been, and it's something that you figure out together. You were the
Yeah.
spirit guide here because you know how to run a meeting like a pro. So you were like, let's try this, but we have adjusted our template and our cadence, and now we've gotten to a place where it feels really, really solid.
Yeah. And that's really the thing is that um, in the command module, I wanted to give people a template that they can just like follow, but I also want you to be able to adjust it. So
Mhm.
all of these tools you can customize, you can iterate on, you can, once you got it, it's yours. And I'll probably continue to update and iterate and be like, hey, I made a version 2. And if you've got if you bought it once, you get all the subsequent updates. I'm not gonna like nickel and dime you for that shit. Um, but I I don't expect you to use all of the things, but I want to give you enough that if you're like, well, what do I do? Right? I've got instructions, right? So here's how you do the thing, or it's like, oh, I want to make, a plan. That's one of the other things. We've got a strategy guide. So this is, what's your family mission, vision, values? What are your long-term, mid-range, and immediate goals? Um,
What's important to you as a team?
yeah, what are you guys working? What are you working towards? What are you building together?
Mm-hmm.
And that command module might seem like a scary thing, especially if you're a high romance individual. And there's a lot of people that are going to be like, oh, I don't like to put too many limits in things. But what I've realized as an artist is the best craftsmen limit on purpose because you need to define the scope of your work. You don't
Mm-hmm.
want to just have an art project that goes on forever that nobody sees.
And
Um,
structure often produces results.
yeah. So the irony is, in order to be more creative, you actually need to add a level of structure.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the main takeaway is you know the push is everybody what's the thing is that a lot of women have told me over time is that um they stress and they worry and like while they're sleep like before bed they just have like this cycle of what ifs and possible scenarios and problems and those are the things that they think about before exhausting themselves to sleep you know and I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, God, that sounds terrible.
It is
So
terrible.
if you're having blowouts, having fights, it's because you just didn't talk about something for a long enough amount of time, and then the pressure built and built and built and built, and then pow. So how do you then create some sort of a mechanism to handle disputes, to get everything on the table, to make sure that the most foundational things are covered? So that leaves you the security layer to be able to get some more of that fun, intimacy, and freedom.
Mm-hmm. It's really good. And we'll talk more about it in detail, and we want to get people on board with all of this stuff.
Yeah. Documentation.
Oh, good.
Yeah. All right. I think that's what we got.
Yeah. All
Any
right.
other thoughts?
No, that's great.
All right.
I like you.
Yeah. I like you. Bye.